my last song. If it's my time to go, when my body's moved on, what will I have to show? No, not fortune or fame, they scatter to the wind. Things that make a name just don't matter in the end. Is the world a little more peaceful? Oceans and sky a little more blue? If humankind is a little bit wiser about the things that we can do, does the sun shine a little bit brighter where before there was only rain? If so, then I'm glad I came. If these are my last words for all of the earth to hear, if these are my last words and I'm about to disappear, if these are my last words, there's nothing I need to say. I have only tried to serve. It's never been about talking anyway. So much hurt there is to heal, it's hard to understand. All I can hope to feel is that I'm doing what I can. Is the world a little more peaceful? Oceans and sky a little more blue? Is humankind a little bit wiser about the world that we live? About the good, good. I'm just gonna start that chorus again. Is the, and I'm about to cry because I'm thinking about my grandma. Actually, my kid's grandma, but we always called her Grandma Cherry, so. Is the world a little more peaceful? Oceans and sky a little more blue? Is the sun a little bit brighter? Is the world a little more peaceful? Oceans and sky a little more blue? Is humankind a little bit wiser about the good that we can do? Does the sun shine a little bit brighter where before there was only rain? If so, then I'm glad I came. Have I given hope to the hopeless? Has a hungry soul been fed? Has a child stood a little bit taller 'cause of something I have said? Have I left a little kindness? Have I eased a little pain? If so, then I'm glad I came. For that, I'm so glad I came. If this is my last song, what do I leave behind? What do I pass on if I'm out of time? Isn't that a beautiful song?
We are incredibly blessed to be surrounded by people who understand that designing our own life legacy is our work. This is it. That's what we are here for. There's a quote that oh, that I didn't copy down. Yeah, there's a quote that says that service is not what we do in our spare time. Service is what we came here for. Today's lesson is about designing your legacy, designing my legacy, really being clear about what it is that we are leaving behind. Not so that the people that we leave behind are in such deep grief that they are challenged to move through life, but because they can celebrate our lives and because we can make the world a little bit brighter. We do have that power. Today I'm going to talk about several people who have done exactly that. So, everybody take a collective breath. God is good.
God is good.
And all the time?
God is good.
Okay, let's try it again. Okay, this time I want you to smile. Okay. God is good.
All the time.
And all the time?
God is good.
Oh, thank God. Right? All the time we thank God. You know, we've been working with the Spirit Group programs over the last month and a half, and we're entering into the final week of the Spirit Groups meeting together and watching Reverend Kevin Ross and Mindy Odlin present on this idea of design your life. And this week is about designing your legacy. And it's about being able to turn within. But we've covered a lot of road on the way here, right? We became open to the idea of change, just the idea. We affirmed that there is unlimited potential for each of us. We talked about daring to be different, daring to walk through our own fears, to be who we've come here to be, letting go of that which no longer serves us, and being authentic. And my favorite takeaway from this entire series, the very best thing that I learned, it's what you learn after you know everything that really matters.
Yes. Yes.
That is just so brilliant. Every once in a while I come across something I've never heard before because, like you, I think I know everything. And I think I know you know that you know everything. There's a place where we get to in consciousness that says, yeah, I pretty much know everything about this. And so moving into that consciousness of being teachable, this has been, for me, a huge point, that I can be teachable, that I can learn new things. Now, I'm not exactly the youngest chicken in this crowd, but I think that as we get older, this is a challenge, right? As we get older and we've faced more and more life situations and we've overcome more and more obstacles and we've been successful at doing things and we have learned and we do know more than we did before, that it's an easy trap to fall into. To say, not only do I already know everything I need to know to do everything that I need to do, but there's nothing else for me to do, really. So that's what the core of this program has been about, is reevaluating what is yours to do. What is mine to do? And I'm so grateful that for some, it is clear what is ours to do is to smile. and that makes the world a little bit brighter. Here's the quote. We serve the world through service to our highest callings by answering the call of spirit. This is about pulling it all together today. So I want to do a little Bible work today. Getting ready for Halloween. Y'all don't get that? So our cultural experience of Halloween might be a little bit different from All Hallows Eve, when the good Christians went door to door to make sure that no evil spirits were going to enter into their community, into their homes. But this ancient tradition of recognizing that we call to the good and release that which is not good, well, that's what I'm going to call Halloween. And in unity, what we even do is we say, and that not good, we release it with a smile. We laugh at it as soon as we get over the tears. Because some things are harder to let go of than others, right? So, in all three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there's the story of Jesus naming the apostles and equipping them to go out into the world to do his work. He's already met with each one of them. He's got all 12. So I'm going to read from King James, and then I'm going to read from the Message. Then he called his 12 disciples together and gave them power and authority over all demons and to cure diseases. He sent them to preach the kingdom of God and to heal the sick. And he said to them, "Take nothing for the journey, neither staffs, nor bag, nor bread, nor money. And do not have 2 tunics apiece. Whatever house you enter, stay there, and from there depart. And whoever will not receive you, when you go out of that city, shake off the very dust from your feet as a testimony against them." So that's the King James Version. Here's from the Message, which is, as you know, the most recently translated into American English from the oldest Greek. Jesus now called the 12 and gave them authority and power to deal with all the demons and cure diseases. He commissioned them to preach the news of God's kingdom and heal the sick. He said, "Don't load yourselves up with equipment. Keep it simple. You are the equipment. And no luxury inns. Get a modest place. Be content there until you leave. If you're not welcome, leave town. Don't make a scene. Shrug your shoulders and move on." Interesting difference in interpretation, isn't it? On the one hand, it's they're bad, and on the other hand, it's let it go. And so for me, having this more recent interpretation of the Greek allows me to see that that's what we're called to do, what I'm called to do, right? As you follow your passion, as you follow your highest calling, as you open up to Spirit's guidance in all situations, you may come into places that your gifts are not necessarily welcome. Or to go completely metaphysical on you, if we let the people and places that don't welcome you represent the ideas and thoughts in your head that are holding you back, or judging you, or telling you that, no, this is not for you, when there's a part of you, a Christ call within you, to do and be more than what these other voices are calling you to do, you just walk away. Move on. Create a new experience of life. Now, I ask you all to raise your hands to say, who completely changed their life at one point. So we all have had that experience. Our challenge is to know that even Jesus made that an invitational experience. That we don't have to get to the point of pain, of grief, of being beat up by those other voices inside or outside. That we can simply shake it off and walk away. That is living in the kingdom that Jesus taught about. Now, I would like to leave that legacy. That's who I have been. I'm going to tell you a secret though. I'm not there yet. There might be people who are there in this very room. Whew. I admire you. Because I believe that if I truly have full faith in that God, that energy, that love, the universe, whatever the name is, that we just shake it off and move on. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. So thinking about our legacy takes us to this whole idea of what we do every day, because it's what we do every day that determines what our legacy is in the long run. I want to read to you a little bit about Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore and Myrtle Fillmore were the founders for Unity. And and they never wanted to have a Unity church. That was not their plan. Do y'all know that?
No.
That was not the legacy that they wanted to leave behind. What they wanted to leave behind was an experience where people could come together and study. Well, I'll tell you what he says. Charles says, unity is not a separation of people into an exclusive group of know-it-alls. Oops. Unity is the truth that is taught in all religions, simplified and systemized so that anyone can understand and apply it. He said, students of Unity don't find it necessary to sever their church affiliations. Yeah, I heard a wow. That's exactly right. I have friends who attend Unity and still go to Catholic Mass because it feeds them spiritually in a way that the Unity community just doesn't. He says, we've borrowed the best from all religions. That is the reason we're called Unity. Unity is not a program for uniting religious organizations into one ecclesiastical body, but a teaching movement seeking to lead all people, regardless of organizational barriers or theological differences, to a new sense of spiritual unity with God and with another. That is the legacy that we've inherited. That is a beautiful legacy. And what has happened over the years is that many people have, and then you may fall into this camp or you may not, many people have had an experience of feeling left out of their religious family that they had been affiliated with in the past. Or many people have had no religious family, no religious organization that they called theirs. And we've sort of become the place for that. For me, what happens because of this legacy is that I get to grow in my understanding of theology, of God, of Jesus, of what it means about the Christ, of what it means to spiritually grow. I get to grow and change my ideas about those things and stay in the same community. Because it's not about you have to accept one creed and that's it. What a beautiful legacy. And he did it through service. What he did was he sought within And he was illuminated, as the Daily Word said. He was illuminated to do what was his to do. And then here comes this whole movement. We may have been, as a matter of fact, I think that we are. Unity is the very first interfaith community. There was no term that called it interfaith at the time. And so there's been this back and forth. I mean, yes, we are culturally Christian. We're going to celebrate Christmas. I like Christmas. And we're going to celebrate Christmas in part because it is the essence of our ability to rise up and be born anew. I know you're thinking Easter, but in Christmas, this is the time where we say, yes, I can have that Christ essence born in me. In me. I can open to all power, to presence, because of this teacher, Jesus, that came along. And everybody took notice, and now there's books about him. And I can see that his teaching about the divine within is for me, is for you. That it's through reliance on that spirit, on that power, that all legacies of value are built. The affirmation this month has been, that Unity Worldwide Ministries put out, has been, the Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. So we've been working also with Unity Worldwide Ministries theme of one humanity, many stories, and yeah, I got a story for you. Sue Marshall has agreed to come and tell us about her experience along rising again. Oh, you know what? I agreed to give her the mic on the boom. That should be about right too.
Are we ready? Okay, this is all written, so give me some time here. I'm Sue Marshall. Thank you for having me today. I arrived in Olympia last year, and it didn't take me long to find unity. Since I've been here, I've become a member of the prayer team, and I feel like I've found a church that allows people like me to feel like I am not alone. When I heard Reverend Terry asking for people to share stories, I wanted to share mine. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I actually considered becoming a nun for a while, and I attended the Catholic Church during my college years, and I had a priest there that refused to provide the Mass in English. This was unacceptable to me. I began to shop around for churches and other faith traditions, and then I eventually returned to my Catholic roots again in another town. At age 30, I was married and then divorced after 10 years. This is a very un-Catholic thing to do. The day I decided to leave my husband, my best friend from college called me and invited me to return to the college town that we lived in and share a home. In that moment, I knew that God had lined up my aha moment that would redefine me at age 40. I had always felt that I was different. In school, I questioned my Catholicism that was taught, and yet I felt so deeply connected to God. In my marriage, I felt like a single married person. In my family, I felt like I didn't quite fit in. And now I finally realized, after all of this time, that I was in love with the person that I went to college with. I had always loved her very deeply. This was the biggest secret of all, that I had been holding deep down inside me for my entire life. I brought tissues. Nothing was working in my life because I was not being authentic and true. I was always playing the part of the Catholic girl, guilt-ridden, goody-two-shoes person. Sometimes this is something I never wanted to admit to myself or anyone else, that I was gay. I thought I would lose my family and my friends and everyone I knew. I thought after 40 years of trying to be what I thought everyone else wanted me to be, I could no longer live that way. I tried to discover who is the real Sue without telling any of my family and friends what I was doing. I went about finding my new tribe. I decided that to really live my truth, I needed to try to find a gay roommate. And I found one of all places in a Wanted, in a college town. Unfortunately, that worked out very badly. My brother and my parents literally had to save me, complete with a police escort, while I packed my belongings. And that's how I came out to my family. After the police escort, I was not able to tell anyone where I was going, but my parents moved me from Florida to outside of Nashville, Tennessee. While in Tennessee, I discovered a group called Rejoice and Be Glad. It was an underground Catholic group that was condoned by the bishop and run by a gay priest. We met in people's homes once a month for potlucks and mass, where I found and met my life partner of 20 years. After a few years, we discovered Unity, and that became my new church home. I didn't want to hide anymore in the Catholic Church. After living in Nashville for 18 years, we sold our home and we decided to travel in an RV across the United States to find a new place to live. Living life, listening, learning to the still small voice of Spirit to help guide our way. We put all we learned from the Unity in practice on the road, visiting friends and family. While we were in California, on our way up this way, we called our friends in Olympia, and we were told by our friends that they both had discovered they had cancer at the same time. One was terminal. I knew at that very moment this was where God was guiding us on our journey, to be here and to help them through this. And we call Olympia our home now. There was an opening at the local gallery that my friend was part of, and this is another reason why I felt like I was supposed to live in Olympia, because I was appreciated for my talents and being able to express myself in a way I had not been able to do in Nashville. And my art is thriving at Splash Gallery, as I am personally. Sadly, my partner and I have now split up after 20 years. I'm discovering who I am as a single person at age 62. It is not easy, nor what I ever planned. But I know God has a hand in all of this. Like all the steps I've taken over the years trying to listen to what Spirit told me. I am starting over again, and I am trying to recreate myself. I think I would like to be called my nickname that I've always liked, Suze, with a Z. Through my life, I've learned to listen, how to engage, how to step back, and how to discern. I am here for service. That is my purpose at this stage of my life. I am open to all the possibilities. I am looking for a roommate to share my home. I've created a new sideline of teaching people how to paint and help them discover that everyone is an artist. I'm here to help challenge and guide people to learn their capabilities are much more than they perceive. And I thank you for allowing me to be part of your community.
Rising up. Rising up through the ashes. Most of us have had to do it at least once. Many of us have had to do it 3 or 4 or 5 times. It doesn't happen without pain. And so we embrace that as part of our human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so we offer compassion to ourselves in this experience. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. Together. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. And today's affirmation through the daily word, as I look within, the light of understanding dawns in me. As I look within, that light of understanding dawns within me. Together? As I look within, the light of understanding dawns within me. Oh, this is big stuff. It's really big stuff. We turn to that divine presence, not just when we're down, not just when we're up, not just when we're cruising and it's all good. All the time. All the time. From the earliest time that we know of, with recorded, well, we would call it religion, but recorded shamans by the walls and the caves, what we know is that people have always honored the rebirth of the planet. And people, like now, saw themselves as part of that planet and that they too would experience a rebirth. The ancient Greeks created this whole story about the phoenix rising from the ashes, because this is the myth that tells a truth. We rise from emotional death over and over again. As I look within, the light of understanding dawns in me. Together.
As
As I look within, the light of understanding dawns in me. The last piece of today's talk is talking about our community as a whole. We each have our own work to do in designing our legacy. People before us have done their work. You know, in the 1970s, a group of people who attended Unity of Olympia down at the Women's Center, the Women's Club, thank you, in downtown Olympia, they got together and they said, we should build a building. They left a legacy. The people of the 1970s, first they said we should build a building, and then later in the 70s they said we should build another building, and the Bishop Wing got built. And then they said we should build an addition to this building, and this building got built. The 70s, those people, they left a legacy. In our current time, since I've been here, we have started to create a legacy too. You know what we released? Some of you don't know. We released 40-year-old chairs. It was challenging to release them because they still worked. They didn't break. They were good quality chairs. They were sitting right here. They were not falling over. It is so challenging to release that which seems to continue to serve us. But you'll deserve some cushion under your little buns. Just saying. And so we've made quite a few changes. Our legacy, our community, together, who we are leaving a legacy here. One of the things that we've been doing is working with the Appreciative Inquiry process, which is a 3-part process. The first part is an interview process where whomever wants to participate is asked to answer a bunch of questions about what's working right for Unity of Olympia and what would you see different. What would you have different? And we did that interview process, and we've got the results from that interview process, and then this thing happened. We did a bunch of research into a controversial project. We did a bunch of research and made a proposal to bring tiny homes to our property to house the homeless. We brought it to the annual meeting, and it did not get enough votes to make it happen. My concern now is not that we aren't doing that. My concern is that we have some pain. That we have some healing work to do. That we take the opportunity to be with each other. Because we're getting ready to do the next stage of the Appreciative Inquiry process, which is determining what our mission is. From our mission comes our legacy. And we need to be very clear about what our mission is if we want to move forward as a community. Now please be sure, and I am not suggesting that we bring this back for another vote. That is not my suggestion. I am suggesting that anybody who has any stuff about this, and you know who you are, join us for one of our small group meetings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present the results of the Appreciative Inquiry interview in small groups the second week of November and the second week of December. I'm going to do 2 a day for 3 days, so you can choose afternoon or evening. You can self-select the group that you want to show up and be with, the people that you want to be in the room with, maximum of 8 people per group, so that we can not only see the results of that interview process, then be with the question, how are you? Because we need a chance to hear one another so that we can move forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm glad y'all understand me all the time. And all the time you understand me. That is not what happens in the council meetings. They say to me, what? We are designing our legacy together. This is us. And so I'm truly looking forward to this opportunity to be with each one of you. And we review the results that came out of that interview process and then move into talking about how it's been. Whether you voted for it or against it. Whether you thought it was a great idea or a horrible idea. We must be able to actually let something go to ashes before we can rise from them. God is good. And all the time.
God is good.
God is good.
All the time.
And all the time.
God is good.
Oh, I hope you'll have a fabulous Halloween. I love you. I bless you. Thank you.
Amen.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
into that beautiful space together. As we close our eyes, let's place a hand on our heart. Let's do a little deeper self-healing and healing with one another through building a bridge. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Let's do it a little bit bigger. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Nice and big again. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Nice and soft. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Beautiful.
And so I invite you to rest more deeply in your chair. Close your eyes if that's comfortable, and if not, find a focal point on which your eyes might rest. Let's do a quick scan of the body, starting at the toes, and working all the way up. This is a practice of awareness. How are things feeling? Anything that's tense, let it relax just a little more. Let the belly be soft and the shoulders drop. Let's breathe deeply, taking in that breath and releasing. With each in-breath, we call that the breath of God, nourishing us, filling us. And with each release, we recognize it as a blessing outward to the world. Any part of the body that is calling for attention, we bless on the in-breath, knowing that that spirit of the divine is working in and through, and we release any pain in the out-breath. As I look within, the light of understanding dawns in me. By faith, I perceive the true and the real in every circumstance. I see through eyes of faith the truth of divine power and presence at the core of every experience. By faith, I trust when I cannot yet see. As circumstances unfold, I remain faith-filled and faithful. I know good, and only good, right here, right now. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. I want to invite you to breathe deeply again into that affirmation. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. We take that into a few moments of silence. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. In the silence. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. Together. The Christ presence is my guide, my strength, and my comfort. We're so grateful for this opportunity to be one with another, to know that our hearts are connected, that through the divine mind we are one. We open to a greater awareness of the power and presence of the Christ, the divine, the highest, in all situations, in all people, in ourselves. Thank you, God. So it is.
Let's do it nice and big.